Listen to me right now. The Department of Education, as far as I'm concerned, it's a witchcraft cult coven. Welcome back, Camp. Listen, do me a little favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I only ask because it helps the channel, man. You feel what I'm saying? It's free to do. And if you feel led to, hey, look right there. You could sew into me or into for the channel, whatever the case may be. And I appreciate you guys. I love y'all. Let's get into it. Y'all see the title, Brett Cooper, she got a new video out. It's time to abolish the Department of Education. Here is why. I feel like I agree, but I want to see what she says, and I also want to have the conversation with you guys so that we could be educated, because a lot of people are actually upset about this. A lot of people are saying, man, we're not going to be able to go to school. You know, it's not going to be free education. Everybody's just worried about basically not being able to send their kids to school and it be free. That's pretty much what I'm getting the gist of. But let's see what it's really about. Let's see what's really going on. Because the issue is, y'all, right now we live in a world where people read thumbnails. They see thumbnails, read the thumbnail, and they read the title, and that's it. And they don't even finish videos all the way. They don't listen to context. And then people make all these ignorant, you know what I'm saying, conclusions without knowing what they talking about at all. And they don't understand the law. They don't understand what's being affected, what's not being affected. They don't understand what changes are actually going on. But then they go and make a video and it goes viral because other people are equally ignorant, and then people are misled and angry, and it's this misplaced anger. And so let's really talk about it, because I feel like the DOE is trash anyway. Your kids can't read. You like, what is it? I believe 8 out of 10 black kids can't read, can't write, you know, at a grade level. You feel what I'm saying? This is sad. You feel me? Like we're trash. We used to rank up there, top 5, even number 1 in a lot of categories. Now we rank horribly. We rank below so many countries in the world for education. We suck, to be honest, in education. And so let's see what's up.
But the thing is, even though this executive order would be historic, it would be hugely impactful, Trump can't just abolish the Department of Education with a signature. The Department of Education was created through an act of Congress, so it must be abolished by a vote in Congress. However, welcome back to another episode of The Brett Cooper Show.
That's a good start. That's a good start. You know, one thing about people that I don't understand is, because Trump wants to do something doesn't mean he can do everything he wants to do. Number one, relax. The dude has been in office for like 2 weeks and a half. It hasn't even been like 20 days, bro. It hasn't even been a full month yet. Number one. Number two, right? That's for you if you're like waiting for him to do certain things, lower prices, yada yada. Like, all of that is not gonna happen in less than 1 month. You know, it's not gonna happen in 20 days. You got to get the ball rolling. You got to get started. He started hot. You know what I'm saying? He started hot. The second part is, for the people who think he could just sign a paper and just magically make things happen. Like, this is what I mean about our education system sucks. You know what I'm saying? I remember being in school learning about the judiciary and all the branches and the government. Like, I understand that just because the president wants to do something doesn't mean he could just do anything just like that. You feel what I'm saying? There's governments, there's judges could block things, and then you got to go through court. There's the Supreme Court. Like, relax. You feel what I'm saying? Like, relax. Your word, relax. Anybody who put in your mind that he's just dictatorship out here, and you might want to vote for the DOE to shut down, because they did you a disservice. You don't even know how your country works.
We have some updates for you all. I'm so honored. I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got a new little soundboard. We have to use it.
But guys, today we need to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. We need to talk about the state of education. If you guys have been watching my content for the last 3 years, even before the last 3 years, because this is something I would write about constantly and talk.
Is this too fast for y'all? I'm gonna slow it down. Is this too fast for y'all? It's fine. I understood everything she said. but let's lower it a little bit for the people in the back.
About in my social media videos, we need to talk about education, and more specifically, what the future holds for education under President Trump. Because Trump has been signing executive orders left and right. And I know it is pissing off the left because they think that he is abusing his power, but honestly, he is doing exactly what he promised us. I mean, the theme of Trump's presidency thus far is promises made, promises kept. Keeping men out of women's sports just a couple of days ago, which was just
I like that. I like that. That's a great one right there.
incredibly historic. If you guys have not seen that photo of Trump signing the executive order surrounded by young female athletes, it was, I mean, truly brought tears to my eyes. So many years of hard work came to that moment. It was just incredible. I mean, from that to directing our government to unseal the JFK records, so much has happened. And next up in the slate of executive orders is apparently the future of the Department of Education. And TLDR, Trump wants to abolish it. But as are many things in our political landscape right now, education is a very heated issue. And a lot of people don't understand how this would work, if Trump would even be able to abolish it. They don't understand why people even want to get rid of the Department of Education, and they're very concerned with what happens after the Department of Education has been abolished.
Right.
This is it, the entire bill. And the bill reads, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, Section 1, terminate the Department of Education, and that's it. Literally one line. It is pretty epic. But of course,
I love when the documents are one-liners. You know what I'm saying? Because like when Democrats give you something, they tell you, yeah, this document is to lower gas prices, but the document be 789,000 pages. And then only one page talks about lowering gas. That's the truth. That's the truth.
that would never pass in our modern government because, as we know, bills have to be like 700 pages long and chock full of ridiculous random things that our government wants to spend money on. So, of course, this has not passed. But with Trump's comeback with his focus on slimming down government with Elon Musk's influence and the influence of Doge, eliminating this incredibly bloated, incredibly corrupt government department seemed more possible than ever. And this time around, with this reintroduction, Massey actually has 30 Republican co-sponsors for this bill. So times are obviously changing. But 30 co-sponsors is still not enough. One article reads, if a bill were to move forward in the House, the GOP would still have to pull support from lawmakers outside of their 53-member Senate majority to reach the 60-vote threshold they need for the legislation to pass. So at this point, we got to keep educating people and we got to pray, which you can.
So basically, we're halfway there. We're halfway there. Whoa! Teach your kids to read. I'm gonna homeschool cause I said so. Whoa! Kick the DOE out.
Do with Hallow. Guys, I'm so excited to share that this episode is sponsored by my friend
Appreciate it, Hallow.
Some of the most familiar to have needed prayers as it is a very emotional and personal issue for people involving their children. And in my opinion, this is because they often conflate the existence of the Department of Education with the existence of public education in the United States, which is just simply not the case. And I think that this comes down to most people not even knowing the history of the Department of Education and the fact that it was never really supposed to have the power or the budget that it does today. I mean, like most.
Yes, this is what I heard, and this was what I've understood. They never was supposed to be able to tell you what you could teach your kids or not. And they tell the states, basically it's a money game, you know? We'll bring in more money to your state if you abide by the curriculum that we want you to teach. Okay? They were never supposed to have as much power as they have now. It's corruption. I think about all the parents. Remember just like 2 years ago when the FBI, the DOE had the FBI designate parents who had questions about what the hell are y'all teaching our kids in school. They designated those parents and called them terrorists and put them on terrorist watch lists because they wanted to know what was going on with their kids' education and why they were being taught all these goofy, weird stuff, and they went to the schools to protest. That's abuse of power. I remember parents opening books and reading the most weirdest sexual weird things about putting balls in certain places, you know, not the age to be reading books like that. You know what I'm saying? Kindergarten, stuff like that, with books like that in the library provided by the Rainbow Service people. You know what I'm saying? Is that not weird? But these parents were called terrorists.
government agencies, it has obviously overstepped its bounds. I mean, most people don't even know that it is a relatively new government department. In fact, Jimmy Carter, who just passed away, he was the one who created the Department of Education. He signed it into law in 1979. And somehow, just to give you an example, somehow over the last 40 odd years, their budget has ballooned from $14 billion to over $238 billion.
$238 billion. Yet when I was in high school, half the books were broken.
That is insane. But what is even more insane is that over these 40 years, over that insane increase in spending and in budget, there has been no improvement in American education. Just look at this graph from the Cato Institute. This is the trends in American public schooling since 1970. So the blue line right here is the total cost, the amount that we, as taxpayers, are spending on American education. That obviously has skyrocketed. Oh, employees have skyrocketed. We're paying more people. We see where our money is going. And then let's look at reading scores, math scores, science scores. Oh, they've stayed exactly the same. There has been no improvement in the slightest. Now, to give you guys a bit more backstory and context on this department and on this issue as a whole, I called my friend Ryan Gerdusky, who is the founder of the 1776 Project PAC, which is reforming school boards across the country, is trying to reform education. He is a genius on all things American education, and he broke down the history of the Department of Education like this.
Before there was a Department of Education, there was something called the Office of Education. That came about like right after the Civil War in 1867. And the purpose of that was just to collect data, like on schools and on school, how they were performing, what books they were reading, make a document, give it to Congress. That was basically the entire thing. And then when Lyndon Johnson becomes president in the 1960s, he says, hey, we really need to revamp education. The federal government needs to get really involved. And he creates Title I, which is about how to distribute money to local municipalities across the country, especially low-performing, poor municipalities. And
especially low-performing municipalities, all that word. In other words, if that didn't ring a bell in your head, the blacks. The Hispanics. Okay? The Hispanics, the blacks, who lives in the low-income areas. It's no wonder that 8 out of 10 black kids and Hispanic kids can't read. Whenever the government says we need to get involved in that, oh, buddy.
Education fundamentally changes at that point once money is really involved. Jimmy Carter runs on the idea that he's going to create a Department of Education. This is a big campaign promise of the teachers' unions, and it revamps education and broadens the scope of federal authority in the way that the federal government works with education.
And like I said at the beginning, and many of you know this, like I said, education is near and dear to my heart. This is probably the political issue that I care about the most. I feel like I have a stake in this as a young person that recently came out of the education system. I feel like I tried every different form of homeschooling and public schooling. I went to community college. I went to a formal university. I basically tried everything except Catholic school at this rate. And I know that there are problems. But the one thing that really...
Don't do that, girl. Don't do Catholic school. I know how them Catholic school girls go. Yeah, I know it's true because as soon as I said Catholic school girls and we know how they be, you already know what I'm talking about. So don't look at me and don't say nothing to me in those comments because you know exactly what I'm talking about with the Catholic shorties.
Really stood out to me that I learned from Ryan when I interviewed him was that all of the intended functions of the Department of Education already existed in our federal government prior to 1979, prior to the department actually being created. They were just broken up into different departments based on what those departments' specialties were. They were not under one huge umbrella. And creating the Department of Education consolidated all of it and gave this department and the unions that lobbied for the creation of this department major power and control, as Ryan also covered. Listen here.
Many of the functions of the Department of Education were happening pre the creation, but they happen within different departments. This consolidates them and brings it all under one house, and it really gives the teachers' unions representation and also creates a massive budget. All of the unions definitely create huge pressure. The teachers' union is one of the largest unions in the country, and depending on what state you live in, they could be the largest, in any given region.
And guys, to this day, the people who have the most control over the Department of Education, who are the major lobbyists, the major motivators behind everything they do, and that would be the teachers' unions, quickly followed by the guidance counselor union. And if you don't know about the power of teachers' unions, maybe we'll have to do an entire episode just dedicated to that because it is true.
Please, educate me. Educate me, Brett. Educate me on that one. I don't know about that one. Never saw a documentary, never searched it up. But the sad part is, it's the biggest union. But why teachers be broke? So the union is rich. The union got money. but the teachers is broke and coming out of their own pocket to buy expo markers.
Truly insane. And based on the graph that we just looked at from the Cato Institute, it seems like these unions, these major lobbyists, the motivators behind the Department of Education, have cared a lot more about lining their pockets, about hiring more administrators, obviously, because the staff is growing, and pushing political ideologies instead of improving American education. In fact, in a recent op-ed for The Hill, Representative Harriet Hegman spoke on this perfectly. She wrote, "That money, in other words, the $238 billion, hasn't been effectively used to educate our young. It has disappeared into the maw of the Department of Education with no accountability for failure. The departments not related to education activities are also well known. Federal bureaucrats, for example, spent 3 years seeking to replace the word sex in federal education amendment to the Civil Rights Act with sexual orientation and gender identity. They have interfered with teachers' ability to remove disruptive and dangerous students from their classrooms, and they have promoted a seemingly endless stream of woke policies at the expense of our cohesiveness and to undermine pride in being American. The result? They are turning out generations of children who can't read or do math and believe that America is evil. Hence why so many lawmakers and so many conservatives like myself want to see this department dismantled. It is beyond time to silence that disruption like I do with my silencer from Silencer Shop. And you all know that I am a big advocate for our Second Amendment rights.
Nah, this girl is good. This girl is good. This girl is good. You saw how she just got into this ad? Oh, this girl is good. Oh, this girl is good. This girl is great. She's great. She's great. Silence like my silencer shop. Oh my gosh. You know, it's crazy because when I think about dismantling, it's almost like, why don't we dismantle even the big clothing brands and start shopping at sovereignlord.org, where you can find Christian clothing of all kinds and coffee and health supplements and just beautiful Christian things at sovereignlord.org.
And I believe in being prepared and being responsible when it comes to firearms, positively impacting the quality of our children's education in the slightest. In fact, by taking power away from the states and the parents, many argue that it has only made education worse, not just stagnant. And so, as part of his 2024 campaign, one of the ideas that Trump ran on, one of the promises that he ran on, was abolishing this department in its entirety and sending power back to the states. Just take a listen from one of his rallies.
I'm going to take the Department of Education, close it in Washington, let the states run their own education. We spend more money per pupil than any other nation in the world by far, and yet we're ranked at the bottom of every list.
Which is all true, which should be incredibly embarrassing to every American. It should be a top priority for Americans to...
You know, that's crazy. That's crazy. You might be wondering why I'm talking about and why I like this topic. One, because I have a son. I have a child. I believe in homeschooling. And number two, because we're talking about control and manipulation, and we're talking about, that's witchcraft. You feel what I'm saying? So as far as I'm concerned, the Department of Education does witchcraft.
To figure out how to fix this so that we can serve our children and our students better. And yet, on the left, and with many Republicans, the only solution they seem to come up with is more money. But we are already spending an insane amount of money. And again, going back to that graph, you can see where the money goes. It goes to...
Not only that, we're not just spending a whole lot of money. We're spending my money. It's my money, your money. Your grandma who worked 3 jobs still and can't retire.
To the unions, it goes to the administrators. It does not even go to the teachers, which we're going to talk about later. But going back to Trump and going back to his promises,
that's what
promises
I said.
Made, promises kept. Just this week, the Wall Street Journal revealed that Trump is actively taking steps to ready an executive order that would, quote, dismantle the Department of Education. So apparently that is next in the pipeline. They wrote, Trump advisors weigh plan to dismantle education department. Administration officials are discussing executive order that could shut down key functions of the agency. And that was published on February 3rd. This has got people very excited. It was trending for like 24 hours on X. But the thing is, even though this executive order would be historic, it would be hugely impactful, Trump can't just abolish the Department of Education with a signature. The Department of
Sadly,
Education was created through an act of Congress, so it must be abolished by a vote in Congress. However, with an executive order, Trump can break it apart. And that is what people are speculating that he'll be doing. Here is how Ryan broke it down.
We want the Department of Education, certain things in the Department of Education to still happen. We want Title IX to be enforced, right? We don't want biological women to compete with biological men in sports. That is partly Title IX. My guess is he's probably going to move Title I into basically give it back to the states almost immediately and have the have very limited federal interaction as far as distribution of state money goes. And then Title IX will probably get moved to the Department of Justice, is what I imagine, or sorry, maybe Department HHS, Department of Health and Human Services. Whatever they have to preserve, Pell Grants will get moved to maybe the Treasury or something like that. Whatever they have to preserve will get moved to other federal departments. And the Department of Education will probably be a building with no lights on.
So, TLDR, how this would work is that many of the original core functions of the department, pre-Department of Education, pre-Jimmy Carter era, they would still exist. Title I would be protected. It would be just moved under a different jurisdiction. Title IX, everything that we fought for women, for protecting women, that would be protected. It would just be moved. It would all be reallocated and shifted around to break up this power monopoly that this department has over our education system and over the state.
Jesus. All I hear is witchcraft, 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 control, manipulate, in order to get your kids in rebellion, which is as the sin of witchcraft. That's why this video is in my lane. In case you were wondering, Emmanuel, I thought you mind your business. I thought you only covered things that's in your lane. This is my business.
And you just gotta know, and I love this, that the teachers' unions are losing their minds. Because remember, they were the ones who wanted this in the first place. They are the ones who benefit the most. They are the ones who have the most power over everything this department does. So I want you to take a listen to my good friend, Randy Weingarten. Randy Weingarten, if you didn't know, is one of the people that I despise most on the face of the earth. She's the president of the country's largest and most powerful teachers' union, and she recently did an interview where she was screeching about Trump's plans for the Department of Education and how this would take money away from students and instead line the pockets of billionaires.
The manipulation, it's witchcraft, it's witchcraft, it's witchcraft, it's witchcraft. I'm seeing it right now. The manipulation. You see it, right? Somebody clip that for me so I could turn that into a sound. I like what I just said there. It's witchcraft, it's witchcraft. Somebody needs to clip that for me. Listen to me, y'all. Listen to me, y'all. What we are about to see is clearly a Jezebelic woman. I know it. I feel it. It's coming. That is crazy. That is crazy because, like I said, they make $241 billion. Why the teachers be broke? We're taking money away from the students. Do you know what my food looked like in high school? You know what I was eating in high school? Y'all took bagel. Y'all took a bagel. Half a bagel, not even a whole bagel. You don't get the whole bagel. Y'all took half a bagel. Y'all put cheese on it and 3 slices of pepperoni and called it a pizza. From elementary school to middle school to high school, lunch got worse and worse and worse. I'm telling you right now. In elementary school, I used to have Salisbury steak, ribs, all of that. It was good. It was good. I ain't gonna lie to you. It was good. It was good. It was good. By middle school, things started being weird. I don't know if it was Michelle Obama. Things got weird. You feel what I'm saying? And then by high school, they was just throwing you bread with cheese and fake pepperoni on it. Taking money from the students. My teachers would buy us pencils. My teachers would buy us markers. My teachers had to come out their own pocket to buy us crayons for art class. Hello.
Where's the money going? Who's taking it? Are they trying to take that money that kids get for tax cuts for billionaires? What's going on? That's why we have to see what they're doing. It is illegal to take that money out of children's mouths and give it to billionaires.
See, this is why this is
manipulation. Like I said, listen to me right now. The Department of Education, as far as I'm concerned, it's a witchcraft cult coven.
issue is so emotional because they say things like this: we're taking money away from your kids are going to go hungry, they're lining the pockets of billions. None of that is happening. Literally not in the slightest. Also, I love at the beginning, she goes, where's the money going? the money wouldn't exist in the first place because we would stop taxing people. People, American citizens, the parents of these students would be able to keep more of their money. That is where it would go. It just wouldn't go to you, Randy, which I think is what you were most concerned about. Because again, none of what you just screeched about and basically burst into tears over is happening. None of it. Yes, you might make less money. Your $500,000 a year salary might decrease. You might have
Woo! $500,000. This head of the DOE, let me tell you something. Or the teachers union, which one is it? Whichever it is. Let me tell you something. I bet you she ain't even passed her regents test.
less power, but children will still be able to go to public school. Children will still have access to school lunches, if that is what you're concerned about. Teachers will still be paid as their salaries are set by the state. They're not even set by the federal Department of Education. And I just want to be on record saying that I am in favor of anything that decreases the political power of these teachers' unions, that decreases the power of people like Randy Weingarten, who use her position to further her own political ideologies and to make more money for herself. So yes, Randy, that is a long way of saying that money will be allocated differently. That will change, but it will be sent to the states.
So I don't think you're going to see a massive slashing as far as spending goes. It's really who does the spending and where. So I don't think you're going to see most of it go away. There will be somewhat of a fingerprint still from the federal government on education, and then the rest will be deciphered by the states and local government.
Which, interestingly, you seem to support, Randy.
States and localities run education. They basically, that's where 90% of the funding for education goes. They already run it. They should run it. The federal government should not run it.
Oh, I'm so glad we can all agree, Randy, that the state should run education, that the federal government, with your $238 billion budget, should not be running the American educational system. So maybe that faux emotional outrage that we just saw is really not about the students, but it's about you and your pals losing political power. So hopefully, guys, those insights, Brian, that brief history about the Department of Education, Trump's plans, how that would actually work, hopefully that clears this up for you, explains why this is happening and what you can expect. So yes, things hopefully are going to change, but hopefully if this works the way that we want, fingers crossed, this means that students will be getting a better education. This means that parents and states and school boards, the people who actually understand their local students and understand what they need, will be given power again. And hopefully this means that our education system will stop being run into the ground by a small sect of self-serving bureaucrats.
That's enough for me. That was a lot of education right there. This was great. Great video, Brett. Guys, let me tell you something on the money. I don't like it. It's I'll tell you, it's screaming witchcraft, it's screaming manipulation. Honestly, if you can, just homeschool your kids, to be honest, bro. Now your kids got to deal with bullying, people shooting up the schools. The education sucks. They can't read, they can't write. They're just being indoctrinated to be woke non-thinkers, you know? Like, they're supposed to be teaching them how to be critical thinkers and think for themselves and have a, you know what I'm saying? But not even that. So kids aren't even like formulating their own ideas anymore. They're being taught what to think instead of taught how to think. So listen, like I said, their Department of Education and the Teachers Association of Witchcraft need to be terminated.